India's private space race is entering its next phase. And one startup is betting that launching a satellite should be as flexible as booking a flight, not waiting for a seat on one.
Every time you ask someone to ride the rocket, right, it'll have to be reused. Now we know how to make things fly. Let's try to now get things back.
Get them back.
Today, to get a slot with the Falcon 9 SpaceX, it's October 28 or so. And the payment goes up today. We build semi-cryogenic engines, which means our fuel combination is liquid aviation fuel. I want to give customers flexibility to go to the best launch pad for them, which means transportation shouldn't be a big deal. We want to bring this 5 or 6 rocket hardware should be able to do about 30 to 40 launches. It starts off as a rocket and becomes a satellite.
So it's a transformer.
Yeah, it's a transformer. As a company, SpaceX story was always there, known to people in the industry, known to people who are following tech. But because it got listed, now everyone, almost anyone who's doing some stock investing knows about it. I think the kind of missions and programs that ISRO will do, no business can do. There is no space industry here without ISRO for sure. India is the hub already, I think. We just need to get a couple of these satellites, these rocket companies to be, more functional, and that's about it.
So it's just a matter of time.
Only a matter of time.
Fresh off Skyroot Aerospace successful Vikram 1 launch, India's private space race is entering its next phase. And one startup is betting that launching a satellite should be as flexible as booking a flight, not waiting for a seat on one. Hello and welcome to Young Turks Reloaded. I'm Shereen Bhan. Founded in 2017 and incubated at IIT Madras, Agnikul Cosmos is building a full-stack space transportation company focused on dedicated on-demand launches for small satellites. Unlike traditional ride-share missions, Agnikul is developing configurable launch vehicles that allow customers to choose their orbit, launch schedule, and even modify payload configurations closer to liftoff. The startup has already achieved several milestones for India's private space sector, including the country's first launch from a privately built launch pad powered by a single-piece 3D printed semi-cryogenic engine. It is now working on, well, hold your breath, reusable launch systems and an orbital hosting platform that could extend its business well beyond launch services. Backed by global and domestic investors, the company is now preparing for its next big milestone, demonstrating booster recovery, scaling launch cadence, and building a business that extends well beyond launch services. Joining me now is Srinath Ravichandran, co-founder and CEO of Agnikul Cosmos. Srinath, it's always great to have you back on Young Turks. Thanks very much for joining us. We've been speaking to you for the last several years. You're on Young Turks. You're, in fact, a recipient of the India Business Leader Award as well. But so much has changed over the last 6 years. I mean, 2017 is when you incorporated the company, incubated at IIT Madras. And today, in 2026, people can't get enough of space. Did you think that this was going to happen?
Actually, no, I didn't think so. I thought if we build the right kind of engineering, we would have the government support. But, allowing us to do a launch from within Sriharikota, from our own private space, orbital launch happened now privately. I think so many startups, it's unbelievable. I didn't even imagine this.
Yes, it does feel unbelievable in many ways. But, you talked about the history of the big milestone that you created, which was the launch from the first private launch center in India. But I want to now talk to you about the next missions that you're working on. And the big one, of course, is the reusability factor. I mean, Musk is trying to do it, and you're attempting to do it right here in India. Take me through that.
So we figured that if you really want to think of a rocket as a simple transportation system, you can't be building a rocket every time you ask someone to ride the rocket, right? It'll have to be reused. So that's where the goal started. We were a little hesitant to actually attempt it in the upcoming mission before our previous launch. So when we did our mission 1, which was in 2024, we didn't know how that would go. We were confident, but it was a 100% successful mission. So then we sat back together as a team and figured, okay, so now we know how to make things fly. Let's try to now get things back.
Get them back.
So that's how it started. It took us, and one thing I realized, I knew about it, but doing the work, I realized it's a ground up new work. It's not like an add-on. It's not like you put a couple of fins extra to the rocket and it comes back.
So it's starting from scratch.
Starting from scratch.
Okay, so explain that to me.
So when you usually size a rocket, you size it for maximum satellite capacity because that's what gets you the money, right? So you do that. But when you're solving for getting things back, you're doing two things. The customer wants you to take as much as possible, or the business side of us wants us to take up as much as possible. But the cost-cutting side actually wants us to bring the whole thing back.
Yeah.
So you're sort of solving two contradicting problems in a way. So you end up having to rethink every single aspect of the rocket.
So how do you solve for these two contradicting positions and two contradictory objectives?
You just have to do a ton of simulations and see, what works. You have to ask completely different questions. Before it was all about, because you're throwing away stuff, right? After one use, you're throwing away. So you're more worried about, can I throw it away clearly? Is there going to be debris and so on?
Which
Now,
there is plenty of now.
Yeah, exactly. But here, what we're thinking about is how can I safely bring it back? Where is it going to land? How many times am I going to reuse it? So all the questions change. And the entire architecture becomes a lot more software-centric. In the past, when you look at a regular rocket launch that's only going up, right? You don't think too much about the software aspect. The software that is written is just enough to make sure things happen in a sequence.
Right.
Now it's like it needs to have its own second brain, a brain that is going to bring it back. It needs to have a special pair of eyes that spots where the barge is, and we are landing on a barge in the ocean. So all of these things are like new eyes, new brains, and all of these have to work together with the old ones. So that's an entirely different challenge.
So the new eyes and the new brain, where are you as far as execution is concerned?
So we have the hardware ready. We're testing it now on the ground as much as possible because...
How many tests have you already done?
More than 70, 80. Every day there's a test happening. Even today there's a test happening.
Okay.
So, because we keep on fine-tuning the algorithm because we want to get the precision right. We'll have a large space in the barge to, where we landed, but still we want to get it literally to be like a bullseye landing. And that is just giving you a little more margin. What if there's a last wind gust that happens one second before you land? You can't be just blown away to the side, right? So we have all that buffer built in, but it's just, again, as I told you, asking all the questions, but in a different way completely.
So confident on the back of where you find yourself today that you will be able to do this early next year, early 2027?
Absolutely. Yeah. Very, very clear about that. And I think the steps have been laid out and the hardware is here, which is a lot. Once you see the hardware, that gives you a lot of confidence, right?
But has what Musk has been able to do, has that given you added confidence as well?
Of course,
and how much of what has happened with SpaceX have you been able to maybe learn from, incorporate as far as your own plans are concerned?
Yeah, they have done 500 or so landings, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So there's actually a lot of information available out there. Okay, no one tells you the last 2%.
Yeah.
Right? The 98% you can get everywhere. But people have been writing about it. I think people have left SpaceX and Blue Origin landed it now on their first attempt, right? And similarly, we had China landed as well. So there is actually information available. And we have taken this Tesla sort of approach where the entire hardware is already fixed. So between the mission 2 that we're flying now and mission 3 and mission 4, only the software is going to get upgraded, if at all. If not, we're going to keep the outside part of the rocket and the inside hardware of the rocket exactly the same. Now that is a big, advantage for qualifying the rocket. The moment you touch the hardware of a rocket, everyone starts calling it a new rocket. So we didn't want to do that. Fix the rocket now, keep all the hardware in. As I said, all the sensors, the eyes are already in place, all the actuators, the fins, everything is in place. We will just be tweaking the software to make it land with less.
So it's like an iPhone upgrade, is it?
Yeah, more or less. More or less.
I mean, to put it simplistically.
That's the approach we're taking. Yeah.
So what does it do to economics, to the cost of sending something up with reusability becoming a reality?
Yeah, it's drastic, right? It's 70 to 80% cost reduction. So the equation changes from when you price a rocket that's going to be thrown away, you price it in terms of, okay, what is the cost of rebuilding a rocket?
Yeah.
The rebuilding variable becomes now refurbishing. That's a huge change. Now you're doing a little bit of painting here and there, and you know what? SpaceX has made it...
painting, is it really?
No, and SpaceX has actually made it cool to fly with the SOOTY booster. If you see in one of their landed rockets, right? You see all that, the suit that's on top of it becomes like this, whatever, war scar or something. So now it's like you don't even need to do that.
Space car.
Yeah, space car.
It has a nice ring to it.
Yeah. So that's what we are actually now focusing on. What is it going to mean to refurbish the rocket? And I think mission 2, the upcoming mission, it may not be in a completely flyable form again, or we may just keep it as a memento, like what SpaceX did. Just put it up there in front of a facility and say this came back from space. But I think the idea is to reuse at least 20 to 30 times. And so the entire economics is now about how can I spread my cost over 30 launches. And all of this I told you is about the lower part. The upper part has a completely different story, by the way.
Let's talk a little bit about the lower part as well as the upper part. And I also want you to explain to everybody who's watching on how you've positioned the company as rocket as a satellite. We've all heard of SAS, but RAS is your thing. Yes. Now, explain to us what RAS is all about.
So if you go a little back to the history of it, right, satellites and rockets used to go to very different destinations. So it's like a relay, right? So the rocket would leave you at a particular place.
Right.
And from there, a typical satellite would start a big, long journey. It'll go to what we call geostationary orbit, which is like 36,000 kilometers away. And the rocket's journey would stop with 400 kilometers, right? So you had a big part of the journey that the satellite had to do by itself. Now, this is the older generation. Now we're looking at satellites which are operating in the same place in LEO, low Earth orbit, where rockets leave them. So the question came, why are these two different systems? Or why are they actually having so much duplication in them? Because in the past, it was needed. It was like someone left you in one place and you had to go to another place. But now you're basically right there. In fact, the rocket now has to do extra work to move away from colliding into the satellite that you just launched. They call it decommissioning the upper part of the rocket, the upper stage of the rocket. So this is one concept. The other one was it's just painful to throw away rocket hardware, right? That we learned even in the previous mission because it was fully functional and we know how much blood and sweat the team put into it, and we just saw it fall into the ocean. And there was telemetry all the way back till it hit the ocean last time. So all of that made us think something should be done to reuse hardware. You can't just throw it away. So these two things together, we started thinking about, can the upper part of a rocket, which anyway goes to space, can that itself behave like a satellite? Because it has all the hardware like a satellite. It has the capability to navigate in space like a satellite. It has the capability to communicate back down. So it basically is a satellite without the core payload. So we just said, can we make this a platform?
Okay.
And ISRO actually had done a small test experiment, the POEM platform as we call it for PSLV. So that was also there, so someone had already demonstrated, at least for a little bit, that you can do something with the upper stage. It's not just, something to be thrown away. So all of these we put together, and now what we have come up with as an upper stage of Agnikul, our rocket, is its own complete it's basically a satellite. So the rocket.
So it's a rocket come satellite.
Exactly.
To put it again very simply.
No, it actually is. It's more interesting than that, I would say, because it starts off as a rocket and becomes a satellite.
So it's a transformer.
Yeah, it's a transformer. Or you can say it's a satellite with rocket engines.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Which throws away a part, which comes back and lands.
Right.
The other part of it just becomes a satellite.
So should we call you a satellite company or should we call you a rocket
Still
company?
a rocket company or probably a space transportation company. We do all of the space transportation work. But that's exactly the idea, right? Blurring those lines. Why are rockets and satellites still different? See, the people who build the sensors or the people who build the transponders that go on satellites, that's completely different technology, right? And that we don't have experience in today. But all of the what they call as a satellite bus, right? The stuff that keeps a camera in space. That already exists in the upper stage of a rocket. And since you're building a relatively small rocket, it really looks and feels like a satellite. So we just said, okay.
So what's the maximum weight as far as the payload is concerned?
Half a ton, 500 kgs.
Okay, 500 kgs.
So let's say tomorrow you want to put a satellite in space, but you're a camera specialist, right? So I'm going to come and tell you, if you can, on your next satellite, just build your camera and give it to me the way it is. I have a standardized interface where I can directly integrate that with my upper stage.
Okay.
And then we lift off together, and the upper stage, after a certain point, just becomes a satellite. And so you've saved, cost in terms of making a full satellite. You only made the camera, which is what is your forte too. And for us, it's like, okay, now I'm going to collect money from you on a monthly basis, right? Which you actually saved because you didn't initially invest in the satellite part itself.
Okay, so that's the RAS model that you were trying to explain to me. But when we spoke many years ago, when you were first on Young Turks, I remember you telling me that it was. You were trying to explain it to me simplistically that it's like if you wanted to be in the market to buy a laptop, you could actually have it customized to your own specifications. And that's what you're attempting to do as far as rockets and now satellites are concerned. So, what is the pitch that you're making to potential customers and clients today? What can you do for them?
So the pitch is flexibility, right? So if you're a small satellite or any satellite less than 1 ton, today the way to go to space, you don't get any flexibility. There is a particular rocket that flies when it wants. It lifts off from where it wants. It goes to wherever it wants to go.
Right.
And you have to pay a big minimum order quantity price, or you need to pay a lot of other, intermediate people to get the final mission you want out of your satellite. So basically cost, time, price, there is no flexibility in all the three basic parameters of getting a ride. In fact, the same three parameters apply for a Ola ride or Uber ride on the ground, right? When you're booking a ride
Or a plane ticket.
or a plane ticket, any of those, right? You're basically looking for where you want to go.
Yeah.
How much are you paying for that, and how quickly can you get there?
Correct.
None of these today, there is any flexibility with rockets, big rockets. So that's our pitch, right? We are coming and telling you get to decide when you want to launch. You get to decide at what time you want to go, where you want to go to, and we'll give you a menu of options for the price. Let's say, for example, we want to launch from Sriharikota. Then this is the price. If we want to launch from the new launch pad that's coming up near Tuticorin, right, Kulasekarapatnam, then this is the price. Now the customer can decide whether they want to choose this or that, as opposed to usually being given no flexibility. It's like everything is fixed. And you have to choose. Now you're not able to choose. You're actually stuck with it, right?
Yeah.
Here it is like you get to choose. If I choose option A, I get this price. If I choose option B, I get this time and this price. Option C could be something else, but that's what we want to offer.
Okay, so flexibility is core to the strategy and core to what you're offering potential clients and customers. Again, because this is complicated, I want you to explain to us. Skyroot has, of course, just seen Vikram 1 launch, and so that's gotten a fair degree of attention. Explain to us how different the two of you are. I mean, you started, in fact, a year earlier than Skyroot. They started in 2018, you started in 2017. But how different are the two of you in terms of what you offer?
So our technology is completely different, right? Like, let me start with a couple of obvious differences, which are like, for example, with the engines. So we build semi-cryogenic engines, which means our fuel combination is liquid aviation fuel, the same fuel that's used in planes, and liquid oxygen of commercial grade.
Okay.
Right. So the idea, why did we choose that? Because at some point we wanted to attempt reusability. We wanted to be easy to move from one place to the other. With a solid propellant like the ones that Skyroot uses, it's a bit more hazardous to handle. It's a bit more of an explosive, which is the technology that worked for centuries, for decades in India. India's PSLV, the first stage is powered by a solid. I think the GSLV Mark III also has these really huge solid boosters. So Skyroot has taken that approach. The approach we took was about, okay, I want to give customers flexibility to go to the best launch pad for them, which means transportation shouldn't be a big deal, which means no explosives, no hazardous substances. Similarly, I wanted to attempt reusability as soon as possible. So with solid propellants, it's not possible, right? Because you can't turn off and turn on a solid rocket. A solid rocket is it's like you've packed a lot of high energy material into a tube. The moment you light it, it just keeps burning.
Right.
So it's a lot of brute force energy addition, which is great for these quick missions that have to go immediately.
Yeah.
But if you're now trying to throttle, you're trying to come back, you're trying to go to a particular point, all of those things need a lot of flexibility in your engine. That solids don't offer as a technology.
Okay.
So which is why we build liquid propellant. So that is, I think, one of the big differences. I think at a philosophy level, our idea has always been take what is available in India and build the next big thing out of it, using technology that will be needed to build a business. With solids, I think business is going to be a little difficult because at some point you will have to decouple production from launch. You can't say, if I'm going to offer a ride, I will have to make a rocket. Like that will have, because it's not only about the price. If you think about it, a rocket is a complex machine, right?
Yeah.
And whenever a new machine of any kind, even if it's a machine that has already been, tested, is commissioned again, it requires a lot of fine tuning. You need to program everything. You need to make sure everything works. That's a lot of time. So that's why when you actually think about reusable rockets, you've done two things, right? One, you've decoupled production of a rocket from launching of a rocket.
Correct.
And the second one, you completely cut down this fine-tuning, commissioning time. It's not called commissioning in rockets because it's not stuck to a place.
Right.
But it's sort of like, preparing for launch. That you've drastically reduced because the entire hardware is not new to you. You know how this sensor works with this engine. And there are no nuances to figure out there. So I think those are the advantages we bring to the table.
And those are the big differences between what you're attempting to do and what Skyroot is attempting to do at this point in time. But, you talked about the production cadence. Now, with reusability becoming a reality for you, assuming that happens in the first half of 2027, what should we realistically expect in terms of production and commercialization? Because the big question is that, we've got all of this excitement at this point in time, but what about the demand? Is demand going to keep pace with all your aspirations and ambitions?
Here we're already seeing a ton of demand, right? I think it used to be only global. I think the last time when we spoke, very few private initiatives in India. And now we're looking at, just at a startup level, about 150 plus startups. We're seeing bigger companies also take up satellite, entire constellations to launch. And that's huge. I think so now there is global demand, which continues to exist, and also now local demand. And I think one thing that has happened in the global scenario is because SpaceX has become so big, now we're getting a lot of business to SpaceX through these intermediaries, right? They're the space, I think they're called aggregators. They actually do matchmaking between rockets that fly empty and satellites that need a launch. And now, because everything happens to these people, they're commanding a premium. They are actually telling us, if you have to fly with SpaceX through me, you better buy this other off service from me, right? So the price of actually a launch is going up, even though the dollars per kg, that's the, the basic measure of a price for launch, right? The dollars per kg that you pay SpaceX is very low. But then there are so many intermediaries to play with that by the time you actually finish a mission that's commercial for a satellite, it becomes quite expensive. So I think those are the things that, I think are now going to, those are the reasons why demand still continues to exist. SpaceX has a great rocket, and I think we're all inspired by it, and the technology is amazing. But given the size of the rocket, it cannot do a few things. It's not there. It's not a technological limitation.
What can't it do?
It can't offer flexibility. It can't offer customized solutions. It's a train. It's a train that goes to space. You cannot ask it to come to your doorstep. That's not possible. Unless it's a coincidence. Unless you live right outside the station, right? There's no way it's going to come and drop you off at the exact doorstep. So that's, I think, the reason why demand continues to exist. I think the last I heard, today to get a slot with the Falcon 9 SpaceX, it's October 28 or so. 2 solid full years plus. And the payment goes up today. So who pays 2 years in advance for almost 100% of the launch price, and then you pay a lot of intermediaries in between. And if something happens in that, that slot, who knows when is your next launch? So that's why the demand is there.
The pain point, and that's the friction that you're hoping to be able to address.
Yes, exactly. So when a similar customer comes to us, we want to tell them, hey, there is a slot available in Feb, there's a slot available in May, there's a slot available in April. These are the 3 launch pads you can use. Now you tell me what you want to fly.
And what is the usual response when you say that to them?
They're baffled, right? They've not seen it even been offered like that before. So a lot of them are actually waiting for our mission 2 to happen to see how this all translates to actual reality. But the good thing is, with the previous launch, at least the customers who were following us closely know that the tech got validated back then. That was not a simple launch.
No.
That was like, a 3-dimensional bullseye game that we were playing, right? We wanted to put the rocket that we flew through a very small sphere in space. And it had to enter the sphere at a particular angle. And we got all of those things right. So the people who followed us then, the customers, they know that the tech works. So there's been a lot of interest since then itself.
So what is the client roster or the potential client roster looking like? And again, if I were to ask you in terms of, what you could book annually, revenue-wise, what does the picture look like today?
So we'll talk launch cadence, because launch cadence and revenue come together, right? I think with the idea that we want to bring is 5 or 6 rocket hardware should be able to do about 30 to 40 launches. That's the ratio we are trying to get to, which is 1:5 production. Launch to production should be in that range, right? SpaceX has gone to 15 today, by the way. With 15 rockets, they fly 135, 140 launches. So it's in that range. I think for us, a good target to have, I'm calling it a launch to production ratio. It should at least be in the range of 5 to 7. Which means one hardware at least flies 7 times in 1 year. And so what happens is, when we are building a facility, I can stop with around 25 or 30 as a production capacity and still target 150 launches a year. So which I think is a good sweet spot to target in the next 5 years or so. So our idea is to get to 100 plus launches a year in the next 5 years. with only about 30 to 40 or maybe less than 30 pieces of hardware. And all our production, everything is sort of, tied to that.
Is geared to that. So in year one, and I'm assuming if we say year one was to be 2027, what's the target as far as 2027 itself is concerned?
Yeah, so we have it planned in terms of 2 blocks. So
Okay.
the rocket comes in blocks usually because you fly the same rocket without changing much back to back, right? So we are already building 3 pieces of hardware together. So even though it's mission 2, in my head, it's very clearly mission 2, mission 3 and mission 4.
Okay.
And then we'll probably take a bit of a breather to learn whatever we learned from the previous missions and then incorporate that into mission 5, 6 and 7. So all of this within a year of when we start doing, that's how we're planning.
Okay. So, and I want to come back again to SpaceX and what you're attempting to do at this point in time. We've just seen this massive IPO for SpaceX. Yeah. Of course, what's happened post the IPO is a different story altogether. But what did you make of the way that the market received the SpaceX IPO and eventually what you believe it does for the entire space tech ecosystem, including companies like yours sitting here in India?
I think a lot of people suddenly, it became a consumer, level story, right? And I think it's the first time when it officially reached mainstream in terms of, as a company. SpaceX story was always there, known to people in the industry, known to people who are following tech. But because it got listed, now everyone, almost anyone who's doing some stock investing knows about it. So, and I think we've read about these stories as so many people are now waiting to be, I think tomorrow or day after the expiry of the date, your waiting time goes. So we're going to see a lot of liquidity as well come into the market. So yeah, I think it's good news for everyone. I think a lot of people who lost out on investing in SpaceX in the early years are now looking at people like us. So we got a lot of inbound after the IPO as well, right? And even though the price has been going down and all that, which I think is a regular trend for most IPOs, right? It goes up and then comes down and then goes back up.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of inbound requests from the US. Before it used to be a lot more from, there were US people, but from India, family offices, we used to get a lot of inbound for investment. But now even from the US, it's starting.
So since you're talking about capital, and capital, of course, is important as far as your business is concerned, the next funding round, how soon are you expecting to close that, given the newfound interest that you are seeing?
Yeah, one thing I've learned over the last 8-9 years.
Has it changed the valuations, though, is the question as well?
That is a conversation with the investor, but I think it has overall gone up, right? I think before the space, I think this is not only for Agnikul, I think any space tech company, I think before the SpaceX IPO and after the SpaceX IPO, there is a valuation jump, right? It's not the same. Now, the quantum of the jump depends, of course, upon what is the exact business you're doing, who you're working with, and so on. But the world has changed. I think that day is, it's like, post SpaceX IPO, let's talk pricing, right?
So pre-SpaceX and post-SpaceX.
IPO, yeah, exactly. So now in that context, I think fundraise for me, I was just going to say that I've always learned that most of the fundraise rounds that we've had never start off like with an official release. We had some inbound that came in, which is very exciting for us. And we felt like, partnering with them would be great. And that became around. So I think I've always learned to, keep conversations warm, and not say,
how many conversations are warm today?
A lot. I think more than...
Warm or hot? How many are hot? How many are warm?
No, we're not actually actively fundraising right now. So everything is warm. But who knows when it will become a fundraise. That's what I've learned in the last 4-5 fundraisers that we have done. We never really officially launched a fundraise. These warm conversations suddenly become hot and then it becomes a fundraise. So, but there is enough demand today. That's very encouraging compared to 2017 when I think I did 400 pitches before I got a $500,000 check. Today that has changed for sure.
That has changed, hasn't it? But speaking of what has changed between 2017 and now, let's talk a little bit about what it's taken to actually build Agnikul as well. You've got 350 odd people working with you, and it's again a very young team. You were telling me that the average age is what, under 25, under 30,
28, 29.
28, 29, and most of the people that are coming into the company are fresh out of IITs and college at this point in time. So, in 2017, how hard was it to convince somebody to join you? And today, do you have to turn people away?
Yeah, so today the average number of inbound, resumes we get, it's at least 40 or 50. So it becomes very hard to filter, and we always solve for those people as opposed to people who we go out and search, because those people who have applied usually have already done the research. They know what is expected. They've done the basic level of, Googling at least about what it means to work in, Agnikul and so on. Very interesting. I think now hardly takes any convincing. It's more about fitment alone for me. 2017-18 was a different story. I think we had a hard time. The most of the people who came in, for them also it was an experiment, right? They didn't think they're coming in to build a career. Today we're seeing people, particularly with slightly older people, right, about 35, so compared to the 22, 23-year-olds. These people come in to actually build careers. They're looking at 10, 15 years, and that's one thing we tell them upfront. Nothing in space happens in 2 years. So if you're looking at changing jobs in 2 years, nothing is really going to materialize in that time, right? To see your impact come, it will take 5 years. Yeah. And people are now, actually okay with that. People are actually ready to sign up for that. And so that is a new thing for me. Younger people, usually the motivation has changed. A lot of people used to come in for resume building and then they changed and they stayed. Today they're coming in itself to stay. I think that has changed a little.
From the time that you decided to give up on Wall Street and move back to India and convince your family that this was the right thing for you to do, two young people saying that this is the career that we want, this is the career of our choice, this is the career of our dreams. Where do you believe that validation has come from, and where do you also believe that that ambition has come from as well, and the fearlessness to live your dream?
I think it has become mainstream. I think space is, maybe over a period of time it'll stop being cool because it is actually mainstream now. So when a fresher or a relatively inexperienced person is looking for a job, he or she will have to have those conversations at home or with a partner or something about what this company is, right? And now if you tell it's a space tech company, I don't think they're going to be like looking at you like you're doing something wrong. Right? But in 2017, that was definitely the case. It was very hard for most people to go and tell their parents or their partners.
Including you?
Yeah, including me. I think for the first 2-3 years, both me and my other co-founder, we were telling it. They knew we were building a rocket company, but to the outside world, it was about working under a professor at IIT Madras in the aero department. That was the simplest.
So you used the IIT Madras cover
for a long time.
For a long time.
Until the policy opened up. So once this in-space thing was announced in 2020, I think then it's like people got to know about it because it was a policy thing. Yeah. And at least that question stopped. Will the government allow you? Yeah. And that question stopped around 2020. So I think the first 2-3 years were very hard. Now, coming to your question, I think people are now, it has been normalized now. They're seeing SpaceX do the IPO and a lot of people getting rich. They're seeing that, there are more companies than just Agnikul. It's not a one-off bet, right? It is actually now you're betting on the sector. It's not like only Agnikul, right? At that time, it was like that because if you're not building whatever, this kind of tech in Agnikul, where else are you going to be? And the answer was probably ISRO. But now you can see there's so many startups. So you can actually build, you in case this is not working out for you, or if a personal reason is demanding you to move from Chennai to some other part of the country, you will still find a job in the same sector. And those things matter when you're looking at building a career.
Well, speaking of building, let's also talk about how you're building out the canvas that you started with and how you're expanding that. Global partnerships are part of the plan at this point in time. You just inked one in France a short while ago. Data centers is the other big story that everybody seems to want to bet on. And that's something that you're looking at as well. So take me through some of the other big bets that are on the cards, on the anvil.
Yeah, so I think when we started, as I told you, right, very few Indian companies who were building small satellites. Yeah. So we just naturally looked outside, and it also, because I came back from LA, for me, that seemed like the obvious market to go behind, US and Europe. Yeah. But I think interestingly now what has happened is people have warmed up to these end-to-end missions quite a bit. People who want to use our upper stage, right? And that's where the data center comes in. So our pitch to a data center builder is very simple. It's like, you don't build the GPUs. That is your forte. Yeah. But everything else we can build for you. So you want to put, if your dream is to put a GPU stack in space, the power for it, the cooling for it, the telemetry to get the data back, the navigation to keep it facing the sun or to keep it above the, the pickup tower on the ground, everything is our job. You can come install your GPU stack and it'll just work. And that's exactly what our upper stage is already, right? It's a platform to host the payload. So I think there we found a very natural fit. In fact, 2018-19, in our very early pitch decks, we had a category called unconventional space applications. And the first one was the data center. Of course, no one took us seriously back then. Now we're glad that it's all coming back because I really think it's a brilliant way to take care of the energy problem, right? So what's happening from a business standpoint? So there is this usual space transportation story. Yeah. There you're selling cargo rights to space. So that's a kg business, right? Then
I like that. That's a kg business, yes. kg, not kg.
right? And then you're talking about end-to-end missions where you're renting out your upper stage for a camera. That's a data business, right? So you're talking about GB, right? Gigabytes, right? And then now you're suddenly talking about hosting data centers and offering a platform, which means it's an energy business. So we are suddenly talking KW, kilowatts.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So from kilograms to kilowatts.
Yeah, so it is covering all those three. I think that is where I think our solution itself has evolved. It is still a rocket company at its core, at its DNA. We want to provide space transportation, but the manner in which I think customers will like it going forward is you provide all three depending upon the need of the customer. If it's just a transport, provide the ride. If it's just data, provide the data. If it is a system that gives you energy to do your business, give that, right? So I think that is how we are positioning ourselves now.
So, have there been takers or interest as far as the data center story is concerned?
Yeah, a couple of people. I think one partnership we actually formally announced. Some of the other big semiconductor companies we're having conversations with, because today there is no global leader in space-grade GPUs. So there is a lot of testing that has to be done. And so some of these biggest semiconductor names are actually looking at putting up these wafers that they're building for GPUs
to test them.
Yes. So I think that'll be a good way for us also to test out what this means as an energy platform, right? So.
And how soon can we expect this to become a
It'll
reality?
come in this first set of launches I was telling you about it, between mission 2 to mission.
So 2027, 2028.
There'll be a prototype launch even for that within then.
Okay, so that's as far as data center is concerned. Global collaborations, I mean, what are you looking at in this
one with
yes.
ISI, right? And that's for a synthetic
also
aperture
a Young Turk, so that's good to know.
So those are many other partnerships. I think there's always one or two conversations happening with Australia. They have so many satellite startups and they don't have a functional launch vehicle yet. So they are always looking to come to India, and that's a closest country for them to do it as well. Lesser regulations in terms of getting something to space from India, and actually InSpace is doing a great job in facilitating these things. Japan, Indonesia, Australia, all these are now suddenly it looks like just in Southeast Asia or the typical Asia Pacific region. There is so much need for space business.
And India could become the hub.
The hub, absolutely. India is the hub already, I think. We just need to get a couple of these satellites, these rocket companies to be, more functional, and that's about it.
So it's just a matter of time.
Only a matter of time.
Let's talk a little bit about what it actually takes to get the hardware done. You gave us an insight into what it takes to move on the software side, but the hardware. And yes, we do have an existing sort of ecosystem of vendors and suppliers, but what has that story been like for you to ensure that there is frugal innovation, frugal manufacturing, and to be able to take something up to space?
Yeah, so the great thing about doing space tech from India is ISRO has already done the heavy, lifting
Heavy
work.
lifting, yeah.
They've developed so many vendors. In fact, I don't know if you know this, the vendor management team of ISRO is called Capacity Building Program Office, and that's for a reason. Because the tech that they have painfully developed actually is used to build capacity outside through tech transfers and so on, right? Which is amazing because there are at least 500, 600 companies of all levels. You're talking from some of the biggest names in the country to a tier 3, tier 4 vendor who you may not even know. All of them know what are the qualification standards it takes to supply to ISRO, or in a broader sense, to supply to a space mission. So that was our biggest job, right? Find out those people, find out those vendors and go to them. So almost everything we are able to, in fact, just in and around Chennai, because Sriharikota is the closest airport to, Chennai is the closest airport to Sriharikota. There's so many vendors around, Chennai who built up entire ecosystems there. So this rocket is actually almost 95% completely. Even products are sourced from India. A few sensors come from France, but other than that, it's a India vehicle.
It's an India developed, India manufactured vehicle pretty much.
Yeah. No, it's 100% India developed and manufactured in India. Just saying the assembly, there are some things that come from outside. Yeah. But other than that, it's a Chennai story more than
it's a hardcore Chennai story.
Because of
the
ecosystem
Chennai
is there.
Express.
Yeah. That's actually a good name.
But you were talking about how ISRO has really helped lay the foundations for the space sector in India. And I think today the conversation is shifting to the private sector's growth in space going to come at the cost of ISRO? How do you respond to that?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen at all, because I think the kind of missions and programs that ISRO will do, no business can do, because the R&D missions, like going to Mars or going to to build a space station, today is not a profitable business idea that you can easily sell. So that will have to be taken up by the government, right? And so only with those missions will the private industry next get a business opportunity to do the same thing. So I think it's going to become a little bit like how NASA is, right? All the deep space missions, going to various asteroids, going to Venus, all of these things are going to be ISRO stories. So that's going to require technology development at a completely different scale. And then we have Agnikul and a lot of other people as well who are taking the base and then building commercial solutions out of it. So our tweak comes at that business case level, right? Where what can I, like I told you, we are solving for time, price and cost. ISRO will have to solve for technology before it solves for, time, price and cost. So that will still exist. I don't think it's going to be at the cost of ISRO. And I think there is no space industry here without ISRO for sure.
Absolutely. That will continue to be the backbone of India's space sector. You've got the former ISRO chief, Mr. Somanathan, with you as an advisor as far as Agnikul is concerned. Take me through what that has been like to, of course, start at IIT Madras, to be incubated there. But today, as a company that's already found its feet, so to speak, building more capability, building mentorship, what is that story looking like?
I think with Dr. Somnath coming on board, he was gracious enough to accept to, be a board observer for us. So he brings an, very interesting blend of extreme pragmatism along with very, a deep-rooted approach to technology, right? He understands the tech really well. So if he wants, he can get down to the nuts and bolts. But at the same time, he can also think about what is the next mission that's supposed to be, right? So I think that's a great, blend to have, because otherwise usually people are either big picture or detail focused. He brings both, and he can talk the language that many investors would want to understand. Like he can talk about business, which is great, I think, right? So I think that's what he brings. But I think overall, one thing that I've realized from our own board, which has been, more financial investor heavy, is if I'll have to take a tech focused idea and sell it to them to get approval, it forces me to think business. So in a way, it's like a guardrail for, not getting too lost in R&D and tech.
Too carried away, not getting too carried away. Do you enjoy that path though, having to guardrail yourself into commercialization?
It's not only enjoyment for sure, right? Any guardrail is not fun, but it's discipline. Right, it's sort of like, I think over a period of time it adds up. But yeah, when you're going through the guardrail experience, it does feel a little,
Are you the big picture guy? Or are you the nuts and bolts guy?
I'm trying to be both, I think. But today I think I'm solving a lot more for the big picture, because I think this is what Professor Satya, who brought us into IIT, told us, right? I will have to choose between building Agnikul or Agniban, the rocket company or the rocket, right? And as a founder, I think I'm going more towards the company building side, because I'm finding all these amazing people who keep surprising me every day. So if I can give them the right platform, then I think they'll surprise me much more than what I myself could have done. So.
Well, I think that's a very simplistic but a very beautiful way of explaining the founder's dilemma as well as the founder's challenge, is to actually build an institution. So you're building for Agnikul, not only for Agniban, while you are, of course, building for the many versions of Agniban as well. But Srinath, I want to talk about the initial years and the 4 aborted attempts and what that taught you, because that builds the resilience and that builds the muscle that is much needed in a sector that is not necessarily used to getting it right the first time around.
Yeah, so that was a painful experience. And the biggest learning for me is building a product and the operations aspect of it. They're very different things, need very different skill sets. And I mean, now to look at it, looks like, yeah, of course, what was I thinking, right? But then at that time, it just looked like, oh, I built the rocket, it'll fly. No, you build the rocket, that'll get you to the launch pad. But then a launch operations is a completely different story. It's about managing 20 teams coming together. It's giving enough importance to all the systems that enable the launch to happen, which actually I think we gave second priority to, because we were all driven by rocket. And it's not like we didn't get advice on that, right? people told us to be careful about ground systems, but I think there was a bias. It's like you always have this, there is a little bit of priority to things that leave the ground as opposed to things that will stay back. And by the way, in a reusable mission, that changes. Everything comes back.
Exactly.
So, but no, the point is, that's what I learned. Launch operations is as important as launch vehicle building itself. So now we're very clear. The teams that work on launch operations are held to the same rigor as the product building people.
So, what would your advice be to somebody who's looking at getting into the space ecosystem at this point in time, wanting to start up on the back of being inspired by all of your stories?
I think it's a great time to be building space tech in India. Everything is opening up. I think there's a lot of positive momentum. I think the first 5 to 10 million is actually not hard to get, which is a big deal, I think, right? So, and I think now you have all the other schemes as well. So the only thing the person or the group of people who are coming to do this need is that patience it takes. I think this is a very priced commodity today. It's a rare commodity today. We are all driven by instant gratification.
Yes.
We want quick results, but
Quick commerce.
yeah, yeah.
Can you deliver a rocket in 10 minutes?
I don't think so. At least not now, but someday
But
maybe.
you can deliver an engine, though, in a significantly shorter time period,
Within
right?
10 days, yeah.
Within 10 days.
Which is actually the market standard is 6 months for that. So we have shortened that, not to that instant delivery level, but to a meaningful level. Yeah. No, but I think that effort to bring an engine to within a 10-day delivery time frame actually took us, 6 years of building. So people don't sometimes see that part of it. That is what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
The outcome is going to be amazing. I think the ecosystem is there, but it takes a lot of resilience and patience and grit to be through with all these. Like, for example, I think we've done like 500, 600 engine tests in Agnikul, right? And every time you go through it, it's not like you're doing earth-shattering, groundbreaking things. You're fighting for that last 0.5% of efficiency.
Yeah.
But that is what is needed to get a reusable mission to happen. So I think that resilience is what I would ask people to, build or watch out for, because everything else is available in India.
Well, the road to excellence is paved by daily improvements, and that's what you're focused on at this point in time. Do you still play the violin? Do you get time to do that?
Not at all.
No?
Very little. Now I have a 5-year-old son who learns to play the keyboard now. So with him, I get a little bit of time, but it's not sounding the way it used to when I used to play it like 10 years ago.
Oh, does he want to build a rocket as well?
He's the first person who asked me when Mission 2 is.
Really?
Right? Yeah, he was in the gallery in Srinath, and the vehicle lifted off, everyone was cheering, and the first question he asked my wife, who was sitting with him, was, okay, this is done, when is the next one?
And he's all of 3 then, I would imagine,
he was a big
right?
3 that time, yeah. So I
So
remember...
he's putting the pressure on you.
He's asking the most fundamental questions you can think of.
When is the next one?
Yes, the next one.
But you also like to write, I believe.
Yeah, I love, I went for evening film school and all that in my Wall Street days. So I love writing, and I still think it's a great way for me to, unwind in some ways. But again, all that time was just getting lesser and lesser.
So no writing?
I do sometimes, because it actually helps me clear my thoughts up. So that I'd still do. Little more than violin, I would say. If violin is once in 90 days, this is once in 30 days.
Okay, that's not so bad that you're writing once in 30 days. So if you were to write a script about Agnikul and your journey so far, where would you be at? Would you be closer to the interval? Where would you be today?
Interesting. This would be like the place, it would be the place where you place the interval block, I think.
Yeah. So
now is the time to have popcorn and come back.
take a break, have the popcorn and come back.
Yeah.
And what would the climax look like?
Climax is basically making rocket launches boring. If by the time the movie finishes, people are like, why did I come to watch the movie? I think that's a good movie.
Make rocket launches boring, is it? But you feel excited at this point in time as you get closer to the interval, or is there now the build-up of expectation and the baggage of expectation that you're starting to deal with as well?
I'm actually super excited now. I think the expectation has always been there, and I've actually almost priced it in, I would say. I tell my team too, right? Everyone is going to judge a failed rocket launch or a successful rocket launch. It's a little bit like you don't need to be a composer to tell whether music is good, right? You're just putting it out there. Similarly, launches get the coverage they get. And everyone is going to tell whether it's a good company, good product, bad product. So you better get used to the fact that everyone is going to judge you.
Yeah.
In any other company or any other product, if you're doing a test, it's okay to fail. Or maybe a small group of people around you would give you some criticism or some feedback or encourage you. But here you're going to have a lot of people tell a lot of things about both when it goes right and when it goes wrong. So that is something that doesn't affect me much these days, I think. But I'm very excited because I never knew that all these kg, kilowatt, kilobytes, everything is coming together. That is very new for me.
That is new for you and for everybody who's watching as well. Did you watch the Vikram 1 launch?
Yeah, of course. We're watching it live.
And were you nervous while you were watching it?
This is the countdown. That's what it does to everyone, right? It doesn't matter.
I was nervous while I was watching it. So yeah, I imagine that, from your vantage point, I don't know what you were feeling and how you were.
Very much. No, there was, I grew up, reading Arthur C. Clarke, and there is one of his books where he writes about how irrespective of what is launching, the fact that you count down from a big number to 0 and you get everyone to, align with that is by definition creating anxiety, right? So he actually talks about a chapter where this is actually a book about space elevators, right? We're riding an elevator directly to space instead of taking a rocket ride. And there he talks about the first thing that a space elevator would do is to get away with the countdown anxiety. Like literally that's a line in that, in that story there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's Skyroot's launch or any launch, I think, will make people anxious. That's how we humans are. You count down to 0, I think anything will make you a little anxious, right?
That is correct. But, in terms of milestones, many have been achieved. What is the one that you're now looking forward to the most? Of course, reusability would be the next one. But, from a 5-10-year perspective, as far as this company is concerned, because you're building an institution to last, what is the milestone that would be the most significant for you personally?
I think really developing a customer experience where complete flexibility is given, right? Wherein they literally have to do very little in terms of, making the launch contract itself, customized. As I told, here is the mass to orbit, here is the, desired time, and here is the mission, the orbit itself. And then if they enter that in an app or something, they should be able to get 3 options. Sriharikota, January 2027, this is the price per kg. Or whatever, Kulasekarapadnam, March 2028, this is the price per kg. Or Australia, some place, right? That level of flexibility, that is, I think, truly, I would feel that, leaving everything that I had and coming back to this, I've done something for the sector in a small way, if that flexibility is actually available for customers. So that's what we are solving for.
Well, we wish you the very best of luck with that, and we wish everybody at Agnikul the very best of luck as you continue to persevere towards achieving your goal. And hopefully we will, of course, stay in touch with you over the next few months as you get ready for 2027 and the many milestones that you hope to achieve then. But thanks very much, Srinath, for joining us here on Young Turks Reloaded. Well, you heard it from the man himself, all the way from kgs to gigawatts to now kilowatts. That's the Agnikul Cosmos journey for you. Do send us your feedback. We always like to hear from you. Till next week, from the entire team, goodbye and many thanks for watching.